Everyone, thanks for being with me. I'm going to talk a little bit about my friend, my buddy, my mate, the psychologist that I admire the most in the world. Oh, incidentally, said with a little bit of tongue in cheek, and that is none other than Jordan Peterson. Now, Jordan Peterson appeared on the Piers Morgan show, uncensored. I don't know why he calls it uncensored. You know, it is YouTube. Perhaps he just doesn't swear. But he raised some interesting issues in terms of who Peterson supports. Now, I've had a go at Jordan Peterson before, and I've had lots of people comment on how terrible and disgusting I was for having a go at such an idol, such a valued individual, such a contributor to our community, and someone who understands psychoanalysis so well. But on the other hand, I think he's a bit of a clown, and I think he does a bit of a con job on us. And I must say that when I first criticised Peterson, my son was a bit taken aback, I guess, about the fact that I had done so, because for some reason he saw Peterson as some sort of guru. Well, I think Peterson's shooting himself in the foot, not just because he takes a stance around Donald Trump that I strongly disagree with, but because his analysis of Trump is just so out of this world and so outlandish that you kind of wonder, is he really a psychologist at all? And it sort of destroys, in my view, his credibility. And so I've got a clip. It's quite a long clip. I won't play all of it, I guess, because it's about 7-8 minutes long. But he does, in this particular clip, Piers Morgan asks him who he would be voting for. Does he support Donald Trump? And his response is interesting, to say the least. So this is the clip.
Just talking of psychoanalyzing people, you've got two complete polar opposites now running for president of the United States. If you were psychoanalyzing Trump and Kamala Harris, what would you conclude right now based on everything you've seen and heard?
Well, if I could vote in the American election, I would vote for Trump. I don't trust Harris. Now, do I trust Trump? Well, he was president for...
I like that. He has to hesitate. Do I trust Trump? Who can trust Trump? He lied 33,000 times while he was president, and recently, when they added up the lies in the first debate with Biden, apparently there were 10 lies that he made. No one talks about that, but nevertheless, I find it interesting that he's saying that he could trust Trump versus Harris. Interesting statement to start.
4 years? Like, look. The best predictor of someone's future behavior is their past behavior. The best predictor of someone's future behavior is their past behavior of their...
I must confess, when I edited, I had to put that in. I found that was an interesting statement.
Efforts in precisely the domain that you're attempting to hire for, and the evidence is clear and valid. You use that in favor of all other predictive, what would you say, predictive markers. So I think it's... And
I need to say, I find this part of his argument quite fascinating, because so he's saying that intelligence trumps, excuse the terminology, personality. Well, I think that one would have... It's hard to make an argument that Trump is intelligent. He's a buffoon. He is street smart. I'll give him that. He's a psychopath, a sociopath, a narcissist. All of those qualities are who he is. But does any of that mean that he's intelligent? No, not really. The man doesn't read. The man has no understanding of world affairs. He's got no understanding, zero understanding as to how he can help people in the United States in a productive and constructive way. Hasn't got any of those abilities which one would expect an intelligent person to have, particularly when one compares him with Harris, who clearly is. I'm not going to talk about how much one is more intelligent than another, but I think it goes without saying, certainly, that Kamala Harris is far more intelligent than Donald Trump. I don't think that's in dispute. So when we're talking here about intelligence and personality are best predictors of behaviour, my argument is that behaviour is the best predictor of who a person is, what they stand for. You know, the fact that Trump lies so many times, certainly that's a predictor of how he's going to be in the future. The fact that he had so many people leave his administration when he was in power, some 50 people left, whatever it is, and as opposed to Biden, who has hardly anybody leave whatsoever. So the difference between Harris and Trump are so stark just in terms of the behaviour alone. Now, that isn't... Look, I could sit here for an hour and talk about how his behaviour, in terms of what he says about people, how he demeans people, how he talks about immigrants, how he talks about coloured people, how he talks about a range of people that are simply different to himself. That is a marker of someone that cannot be trusted. And yet, someone like Jordan Peterson is supporting a person whose personality, based on those behaviours, does not qualify him from the office of President of the United States. To me, that's a no-brainer. However, to Jordan Peterson, it's kind of ignored. And as a psychologist, I think that should be embarrassing for him.
More appropriate for me as a clinician who knows the psychometric literature to point out that independent of Trump's personality, which tends, by the way, to be a relatively weak predictor of behavior, it's intelligence that's the best predictor, and then personality, we have a documented track record. Okay, so what do we know about Trumpers? Plus, he established Abraham, the best predictor of someone's future behavior is their past behavior. And everybody in the state, the best predictor of someone's future behavior is their past behavior. And that agreement together was impossible. Now, of course, it's the...
Again, I highlighted that point because that is my point. The best predictor of future behaviour is past behaviour.
Abraham Accords that have infuriated and frustrated the bad actors in Iran, and that's pretty much the entire political class there, and fomented October 7th and produced this catastrophe that's unfolding. But putting that at the feet of Donald Trump is a very ill-advised thing to do. So I would say, with regards to Trump, well, we know what a Trump presidency would be like, but there's something else to consider too, because you might say, well,
this is just waffle crap that Peterson. It's like he hasn't really thought about this at all, and suddenly he's been asked the question by Pierce, and he has to make a statement that he thinks, to some extent, is coherent. The bottom line is that what he's saying is no more coherent than the crap that Trump carries on.
Oh, you know, that was round one, and now it's round two, and Trump is older. And although I think he's actually modified his behavior to...
He has modified. God, no, he hasn't.
To some degree, as a consequence of being beat up so thoroughly over the last 5 years. And although he's a bit defensive, he's also less blustery and more human, which I think is a big plus.
Oh, that's crazy. What a madman would suggest that suddenly he is more human. Here's the man that said after he was shot that he's going to be kinder. That lasted a day, and then he became just as aggressive and just as obnoxious as he always has been. What a load of crap.
But for me, the other thing that I've seen really switch that's really been positive for me is that Trump has pulled a lot of hyper-powerful people together around him.
He couldn't do that or maintain them when he was in power. What he's done now is he's got the likes of Elon Musk. He actually mentions a few here, which one of them was a Democrat, but now it's turned Republican. And I don't see them as extremely important individuals.
Tulsi Gabbard, Vivek Ramaswamy, Robert F. Kennedy.
Now there, he just highlighted three crazy people. So he thinks that the crazier the person is, the better Trump will be. I don't think so.
Most of whom would have been Democrats in anything approximating a sane and normal world. And so, you see, my sense is that somebody whose narcissistic impulses are out of control, because Trump is a flamboyant and dominating character who likes the public light. So you think, well, you know, does he tilt too far in the narcissistic direction? It's like, well, why would he share the spotlight with the rest of this?
Okay, enough of that crazy shit. The reality is that Peterson has no grasp, I don't think, on the personality traits that make Trump, that define, I guess, who Trump is. He hasn't got any understanding whatsoever as to how Trump has been formed, whether or not, and even this notion that he has changed. Well, he hasn't changed. He's just as obnoxious, just as painful as before. However, Peterson, for whatever reason, feels like he needs to have to support this notion that Trump is better than Harris. And later on, he's asked by Piers Morgan what qualities to define the traits of Harris. And you can watch the whole video on Piers Morgan Uncensored, obviously, but the reality is he isn't able to do so and doesn't do so because this man is frustrating, because he's written a few books, he's been extremely successful, but at the end of the day, apart from those subjects that he talks about, like families and relationships and other stuff, for which I guess he is an academic expert, apart from that, he's lost. And to view, and I find it sad actually, to see that someone with the recognition that Peterson has, the accolades he gets and the coverage that he gets, that he's lost his way. It's really sad. So I'll be interested to know what you think in the comments section below. Please subscribe to my channel. I'd find that a great help, and ring the bell for further notifications. In the meantime, take care, look after yourselves, and more importantly, be safe.